Hello, disruptors, and welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. I am Dr. Alisa Whyte, your number one mindset disruptor, and I am so happy that you have joined us for another episode of this podcast. We thank you for being a part of the tribe, and we have got a conversation for you today. But let me give you some information. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, over 20 million Americans struggle with substance use disorders every single year. And globally, the numbers are staggering. But here's the harder truth. Less than 10% of those who need treatment actually receive it. Addiction isn't just about willpower. It's about pain. It's about mental health. And it's about finding the right tools to heal. Today's conversation is going to challenge the way you think about recovery, mental performance, and what's possible after hitting rock bottom. My guest today has a story that's as raw as it is also inspiring. After battling 9 years of alcohol addiction that nearly took everything from him, Keegan Downer discovered the transformative power of natural supplements and medicinal mushrooms. Yep, I said medicinal mushrooms. Now, as the founder and chief vision officer of Mindful Meds, you see the connection there? On a mission to positively impact 1 million lives through mental health, recovery, and performance support. Keegan, he leads Mindful Meds, a premium supplement company that partners with organic farms and cutting-edge labs to produce medical mushrooms, adaptogens, and nootropics of the highest purity. I have to go with my words because these are new words to my vocab. He had me do some research. They even work with an indigenous elder who blesses and tests each batch of the energetic integrity. This isn't just a company, it's a movement for mental wellness, resilience, and healing. I tell you, when I heard about this young man and what he and his organization and team are doing in the world, you know, with our goal to transform 1 million mindsets, do you see a really good marriage here? And we welcome you to Mindset Mastery Moments. It's such an honor to finally be able to sit down with you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. What an exciting introduction. And I cannot wait to have this conversation with you. We briefly got to connect just before we hit record. And I think what I'm most excited about is you opened up by saying, I've never done this before. I've never smoked cannabis.
Yes.
So maybe that's kind of a neat way that we can start the conversation, because I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm just here to share a story, share some of the science and the data, and hopefully from there, your community can make an educated decision for themselves if this is for them or not.
Absolutely, because everything is not for everybody. But I'm pretty sure, Keegan, that some people have been exploring this already, and this episode is an answered prayer to an open door that they can explore from someone who knows what they're talking about and has tested and proved and brought it down to not just a science, but an applicable way of just leading your life from both a mindful and a non-invasive sort of medical perspective, if I can say that, right? So yeah. Keegan, I'd love to start at the beginning. Before Mindful Meds was born, you were fighting a battle that nearly took your own life. Not you taking your own life, but it almost took your life. Can you take us back to that season and what your day-to-day looked like at your lowest point?
Sure. Mental health was a huge part of the conversation that my family and I were having, even all the way back from, grade kind of 2 to the year after high school. And the reason that is my dad had his master's in psychology and was building social programs for people in the UK. I like to say people that were kind of underdogs in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, the programs that my father built in the 90s are in use. And he was way ahead of his time when it came to talking about mental health and addiction way back in the 90s when this was kind of a taboo conversation.
Yeah.
The challenge with that, though, however, as amazing as it was to have a father that was a renegade in this industry, he had his own trauma and he had his own wounds. And to be honest with you, he died with those wounds. And so he was amazing at helping other people. And where
Wow.
he
Yeah.
really with his own self-love, with his own ability to heal his own wounds. And so I grew up with a father that was an alcoholic. Spent every single summer with my dad, my sister and I did. From that time, from grade 2 to the year after high school, I think it was 19 summers in a row. So I went from this world of an amazing amount of stability with my mom and my stepdad, and they're still together to this day.
That's awesome.
Dinner on the table. They used to come and watch me play baseball, and just a lot of love. Not a lot of money or anything, but just a lot of love.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. And then when we got to my dad's place in the summer, absolutely no rules. There was literally no rules. You could eat anything, you could do anything. I was drinking by the time I was 14 and partying when I was young, drinking with my dad at the pub when I was 14 years old. And, that was just a different era. It was very different. I'm 40 now, so this is kind of 20 years ago in the UK, where if you went with your parent, as long as they were there, the barman would serve you.
Yes.
Little did I know that, years later, I used to get off the plane to come back to Canada, and I was holding all of these secrets from my mom, like all of these things, these traumatic things that had happened, because I knew if we shared with my mom what actually was happening over there, she would never send us back.
Right.
So, right? And you had mentioned something at the start of the call too, which I found interesting. We're connected on that level, it sounds like, as well. Did you have a parent that struggled with addiction, or did I hear that wrong? Yeah.
No, my dad, he used and abused alcohol. Yeah.
Okay. So we could totally relate to that, walking on
Absolutely.
eggshells and, the shifts in the personality that went
Yes.
from, laughter to maybe anger super quickly. And, the reality is that my life went incredibly well until I was 23 years old.
Wow.
Little did I know that I was really just one big, significantly traumatic incident away from becoming an alcoholic. I had all of this unhealed trauma that hadn't really come to the surface until I was 23. And I'll just share with you, I got this big job. I'm saying this with the air quotes because it was big for me at the time.
Right, of course.
To go run a sales team in New York City in 2008. And I got hired in the summer of 2007. So halfway through that year, my life started to fall apart and I started drinking. So by the time I actually showed up in New York City in 2008, as a 23-year-old, I had been drinking 150, 160 days straight. And I had been a totally, totally different version of myself. I was not the guy I was a guy that all of a sudden had depression and anxiety, and I was a daily drinker. To be honest with you, Dr. White, I didn't plan on coming home from New York. I had totally planned on never seeing my family or friends again. I was so depressed, it happened so quickly, that I found myself on top of this 28-story building in New York City in July of 2008, and looking down at the ground with my heels cocked up off the ground. My waist was leaned over the edge, and I was looking down at this mountain of garbage. I was in Long Island City, beautiful, but there was a garbage strike in New York that summer. So all this garbage on, and my mom and dad, who's still with my mom today, were doing a trip around the world. They had just retired, and they were in Fiji, and it was the place that my mom wanted to go her whole entire life. And I realized that they were going to have to leave their trip and have to come scrape my body off the ground. And so obviously something saved me. There was a whisper in the back of my ear that said, just make it to Kaylee's wedding, my older sister's wedding, who was my ally. And we traveled to England every summer, and still to this day is somebody that I really look up to, and just an amazing human being. She got married that August. So a month after this, and I decided, okay, I'm just going to get home. I'm going to go to the wedding, and then I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and then I'm going to do it. And so I ended up going to my sister's wedding, making it, but walking through the airport in Calgary when I got back from New York and handing my passport to the customs officer, and my hand is shaking. And I realized that I had a secret drinking problem, and nobody knew but me. And so that's kind of how it began. 9 years later, I ended up in rehab. I drank every day for 9 years. the year and a half leading up to rehab in 2016, I was the first guy at the liquor store at 9 o'clock in the morning every single day. And I was the last person at the liquor store every single night. And, it was the rehab experience that ultimately shifted things for me. I was so lucky to go, like you said, there's so many people that just never get to have access to go and get treatment. And,
Yes.
Where I went was so far ahead of their time. It was all based around mindfulness and breath work and yoga and meditation and beautiful food and, of course, therapy and nature therapy. And so what ends up happening in rehab, I'm sure you've known some people to go. I'm just going to share one moment, and then I'm going to pass it right back to you to.
Oh, we're digging in because this is the foundation of this whole little castle we're building today. So go for it.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to just share this. I walked into rehab. I was petrified. I was so scared of what the world was going to think about me. I never thought I was going to get another job again. I didn't think people were going to want to talk to me ever again because I was so fearful of having this label of being an addict. And I was just caught up in what other people were going to say and think. But right away I got in and I realized, oh my God, this is exactly where I need to be. And 28 days later, I had chosen that I was going to be the person that went all in, because honestly, I didn't come from money. My family didn't have money. And, but they blessed me with the opportunity to go to rehab. And I've since been able to pay them back. But I just kind of thought of it as this is my one shot. So I better go all in. And my going all in, rehab is essentially, you're trying to reverse engineer how the hell you got there.
Right.
What in your life that was so traumatic, that you decided to numb out the pain. Everybody knows who Gabor Mate is. Gabor Mate talks about addiction, and he goes, it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain. And so you're trying to figure out, you're trying to heal the pain, right? Like whatever it is that you're numbing, you're trying to heal. But this is what with you that changed my life. The last day in the rehab facility, I was just about to go home the very next day. And of course, I was a bit scared and nervous. I was $70,000 in debt. I had $28 in my checkings account. My wife couldn't even afford to come and pick me up. I was about 4 hours away from where she was.
Yeah.
Life rebuild ahead of me. I'm telling you, no matter where you're at today, I promise you, you can get through this.
You can get through.
And this is what happened. The director of this facility put all 30 of us in this circle, this massive circle. And we sat in the middle. And we thought we were getting this kind of coaching pep talk to get a slap on the butt and kind of cheer you on to get out there in the world. But here's what happened. She goes, look to the person to the right of you. And so we all take this moment and we look to the right and we're looking deep inside this person's eyes. And you've been spending 14 hours a day with these people for 30 days straight, trying to reverse engineer how you got there. So everybody's secrets. So you're closer with this group of people than you are with your own family at that time. I'm telling you. And the director goes, that person's dead in 365 days or less. And none of us expected to hear that. So within an instant, all of us are crying. All of us.
Yeah.
Every person there is going, holy shit. She goes, look to the person to the left. And we look to the person to the left and she goes, that person is back in one of these facilities in less than 365 days.
Wow.
And that was it. It was this moment. So I ended up getting out of rehab, but I got a call 9 months later. And it was a person that said, hey man, are you sitting down and have you heard about what's happened? And I go, no. And she starts listing off everybody that was dead. All of these overdoses, two suicides and a murder. And so within months, 7 people from that circle were already dead. And so that's where this conversation begins, because I realized in that moment that I was going to take every single skill that I have and figure out how to help help those numbers and help the people that, to be honest with you, are my personal community. These are the people that I relate to the most. And so I had no idea how this was ever going to, I had no idea what the path was going to be, because sometimes you've got this grand vision of knowing that you want to help, but you just don't have the pieces. And so, I went and started building these nonsense companies that had no meaning, but were making some money. And, you're working with shitty people and you're not really doing anything that matters. And it was kind of soul sucking. And I was starting to get this incredibly horrendous anxiety going into my office in 2019. I'd been off the alcohol at that stage for about 3.5 years, but I was so close to a relapse, Dr. White, that I was looking for some tools.
Yeah.
And this is where the conversation gets a bit interesting, because I got introduced to a mushroom farmer, mycologist, and he introduced me to microdosing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the things that I really, really love and admire about your story is how open you are about the intersection of addiction, depression, and anxiety. You see, in the world of medical and mind science and just therapy, those words are all different. Like they're a triad, sort of, in my opinion: addiction, depression, and anxiety. Why do you think so many people, especially men, suffer in silence instead of seeking help?
My is that we follow so many leads from our parents, right? Like, I'll give you an example. You look at the hat that I'm wearing today,
Right.
This is the Toronto Blue Jays. I followed this team because my grandfather was a fan. We learned so much from our ancestors and the people in our family lineage. And in particular, especially from that era, my grandfather and my dad, they didn't know how to talk about their feelings. Your feelings.
Yes. And it still is.
Totally. And, and this is for men and women. And I think, for me, I had this inability to ask for help. And all I ever wish is that I picked up the phone and I called somebody like you, or somebody like, I'm so blessed to be connected to amazing people that are doing amazing things in this world today.
Yeah.
I just picked up the phone and said, hey, I need some help. I'm scared and I don't know who to talk to. I'll tell you what, anybody that's listening to this today, they will say, if that call came to me at any time of the day, I would be honored to help that person. So let's just normalize asking for help.
Yeah.
It's so okay to ask for help. You don't have a clue. Well, I think everybody here does. But man, existing in this world today is harder than it's ever been.
It's hard. Come on now. It's harder than it's ever been. And I say that what we don't realize, even though we have the feminist movement came in, and I'm not going to stray too far, but the feminist movement came in, we work on women's empowerment, even though we've come such a long way and equal rights for women, all the stuff. I'm not downplaying it. We're still in a very patriarchal society. However, it looks very different than it did for our grandparents. Why? Because men are expected to be emotional and intelligent, which we want, but also be tough, be providers, but be flexible. I mean, we're asking men to do some of the most it's like really not even the how we're asking men to show up in the world today is not even, we don't even see it depicted in Spider-Man or Superman's characters, right? And so I believe it's, when you say let's normalize, that's what I support. I say let's normalize asking for help, but let's normalize being intuitive and asking to help as well. Not for only, but to. And sometimes it's only just listening and saying, why don't you talk to Keegan? Why don't you go talk to Dr. White? Why don't you go talk to, a medical professional? Whatever that looks like, ask and offer help. Because that's the only way. Because we're in a society now where empathy is lacking. But I believe when it comes to addiction, we would snicker. Oh yeah, he's probably drunk again. As if, as not realizing the description you gave this at the beginning of your intro, where you talked about standing on the edge. That he is drunk again as he came into this room, but when he stepped outside to that balcony, he's contemplating jumping 20 stories. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Such an important conversation. And I think, well, first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come in and share this, because there's nothing in my life that matters more to me today than having this conversation. And if there's one person that needs to hear this today, and they shift and get to transform their life. And I can tell you, we all have the capacity to do this, you guys. Every single one of us does. Hey, it's completely worth it. And I
Yes.
never usually use that language that if it's just this one person. I'm always a little more ambitious and say, let's help hundreds, let's help millions. But honestly,
One is 1,000, and two is 10,000, because it's 10x. It's 10x. So you know, when you get one that does the transformation, you're transforming generations. So you can't miss, right? Your turning point and your transformation, you credited the mushrooms and natural supplementation as part of the transformation. But those who are actually hearing this and they're thinking, wait, mushrooms? What do they need to understand about the healing potential behind mushrooms?
I think let's start by, I got introduced to this mushroom farmer. I was having the worst anxiety, turned into panic attacks. My only outlet that I thought I was going to, honestly, it all came back again. Like I was so close to relapsing that I called my mom and dad, I called my wife and said, we need to have a family meeting because I think I'm at the point where I'm going to drink again.
Right.
At the same time, within a week of this event, there was a knock on my door and of the kitchen of my office. The guy that came to do the work, the renovation on the kitchen, was the mushroom. So he literally just fell into my lap. He knocked on the door. I got to know this guy for several weeks because he kept coming back every day. He got me on some microdosing capsules. Got to remember, this is 2019. The conversation is not where it's at today. We're at a place now where I think everybody is a little more open-minded. They've heard about the studies. And, it's a conversation that isn't as
taboo. Yeah.
As underground, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was fascinated because I had this incredible moment about 12 days into microdosing. This is at a time where there was really very little science. There was very little data. There was some studies that were taking place, and I'm going to talk about the studies next after this because your community is going to be interested in the data, the science, how it works, and we get right into that.
Right.
But my first kind of aha moment, I was sitting with my journal and every day was kind of like, I'm still waiting for that moment of my life that's going to change. And I was excited because I was documenting and like, is there anything shifting? And then it happened. And I want to share that with you, Dr. Whyte, because what it was for me was I was in this nonsense business that I can laugh about now, but there was a lot of money involved. There was a lot of people involved. And I still had to figure out how to get the hell out of it because it was killing me. And so I ended up writing this 3-page phone call to my ex-business partners. And why that's significant is because I have been in sales basically my entire career, even through the addiction. And I have never written a sales call down in my whole entire life. And as soon as I finished writing, I picked up the phone and I called my ex-business partner. And I said to him, hey, I just want to talk to you for 5 minutes. I got a few things to share. Would it be okay if I had the floor for a few minutes? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. And he had no idea, but I was reading this letter word for word that I had written. And at the end of it, I ended up walking away from this business, literally getting out of the cobwebs and the tangles and the stress and the anxiety that this business was creating in my life. And to this day, I have never again talked to that person. And we had worked together for 4 years at that, 3.5 kind of ish years at that point. But he was a real cancer. He was a narcissist, and he was not a person that you want to spend your time with, especially as like me.
Yes.
And so that was the aha moment.
Because that alone would make you want to drink.
Well, exactly. Like this constantly on eggshells, this guy. And it was this amazing moment. And then from there, I said, okay, I want to see if this works like this on other people. And so I teamed up with a friend of mine in Calgary, which is where I'm contacting you from, west side of Canada. And he had a background in psychology. And so what we decided to do was the very first ever microdosing study that has ever to this day been done in Canada by a non-publicly traded company. And again, saying this with air quotes because the study was really to try to get the anecdotal evidence that people's lives were shifting. That's all that mattered to me. It wasn't placebo, double blind, all those things. It was, let's have 40 people that have never microdosed before try this medicine, and all they have to do is fill out a 13-question questionnaire. And we're going to try to get a baseline evaluation as to where people are at with their mental health, with substances, with addiction, with their moods, with creativity, with libido, with focus, with clarity, with brain fog. And we're going to try to get a baseline as to where people are at. And then what we're going to do is we're going to provide the medicine. I'm going to teach everybody everything that I've learned. At this stage, I've been researching for about 6 months. And, I'm going to host this kind of seminar. I'm going to provide the medicine. And then at the end of it, they're going to fill out the exact same questionnaire again. And at that point, we are going to hire a company and we're going to tally the data. We're going to see how the needle moved in these people's lives. And that's how this whole thing started. I put my life on hold for about 4 months, put this, this anecdotal study together. And the way the needle moved in these people's lives was enough to make your jaw hit the floor. So I finally found my life's purpose. And I'm telling you, it was a feeling I've never felt before. Only people that, kind of find, their purpose. And I believe that our lives have many purposes, but this was the first time for me that I had ever felt my heart just electrically jump out of my chest.
Passion, the fire.
And all of a sudden I'm doing something that actually mattered. I'm not selling frozen yogurt as a massive franchisor. So that's how it all began. And I want to share some things that I've learned along the way if you're open to it.
Yes. I'm learning. School is in session.
Do you have any questions on anything that I've asked so far? Or do you just want me to kind of get into it?
I want to get into it because you're actually preempting my questioning and giving us the masterclass that we came for. So just let's rock and roll. And once any questions, I got them. I got you.
Amazing. So let's start with safety. Okay? Let's talk about the safety profile of psilocybin. So when we talk about psilocybin, what we're talking about is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. So for instance, to give you an example, if THC to cannabis plants. Now, when you digest psilocybin at the microdosing level, it changes in the body to what's called psilocin. And that is kind of the active ingredient that kind of does the magic within the system. So the thing that I think is important to start with is the safety profile. Okay. So one of the biggest studies that has ever been done on drugs, it has been done by this professor that works for an Ivy League school called the Imperial College of London. He's the head of the neuropharmacology unit. His name is Dr. David Nutt. He's a scientist and a researcher. N-U-T-T for anybody that wants to look this up.
Look him up.
By the way, this study is in my microdosing guide that we give away for free to everybody. So every single thing that I share with you guys today is available in the document that I'm going to give you guys all access to for free. So don't worry about taking notes because I'm going to have all the studies, all the research in one place that you can look at. But they were trying to figure out this. They were trying to figure out the most harmful drugs in the world in a two-pronged manner. They were looking at how are they harmful for me as an individual? And how are they harmful to the community of people around me? And this is fascinating, okay? This was a study done in Europe, and they have now replicated this in North America. The results were identical, okay? So let me ask you that. What do you think the most dangerous drug in the world is today?
I think my understanding, it's marijuana, THC.
I mean, that's a good guess for sure. The most
because they seem to be not clear on what the effects of it is, the versions they have of it now.
Totally. I can touch on that slightly in a moment.
Yeah,
but
please.
You're onto it. You're close in the sense that it is that accessible. It's alcohol. Okay. It's alcohol. And so there's over 3 million people a year that die from alcohol-related injuries worldwide.
Wow.
If you look at arrests that are made around the world,
yes, I've seen those.
For domestic violence.
Yes.
In almost every case, there's alcohol involved.
Accidents on the roadway.
Accidents on the roadway, that's such a huge, almost 100% of those also. So alcohol by far is the most dangerous drug in the world. Yes. And then So there's about 16, I believe, drugs that were studied. And the only reason I'm using the word drugs with psilocybin mushrooms is because of this study. We believe this to be medicine. So I never, ever use the word drug when we're talking about mushrooms.
Right.
But in this case, it's important to just point out that that's how they framed it in the study. So as the list goes down, there are things like cannabis on the list. Cannabis is kind of like halfway through the drugs. I believe the next one was heroin, and then it goes to opiates, and then it's crack cocaine, methamphetamines, and then, to be honest with you, cannabis is on there. And so is nicotine, and so is caffeine,
And sugar.
and sugar, and past all of these at number zero. Not one person in the world that I'm aware of today has ever died from psilocybin mushrooms. Not one single person. So at number zero, the safest drug in the world, great way to have this conversation, psilocybin mushrooms. Safest drug in the whole world.
Wow. So it's considered a drug, but
Yeah.
it's 0% impact on people committing crimes, killing themselves, killing other people, beating other people up.
No, in fact, it is the complete opposite of alcohol. What psilocybin mushrooms do is they create happier people. People become better versions of themselves when they take this. It puts them into a place of homeostasis. It brings them back to safety within their own bodies, and they get to be themselves, and they get to contribute to this world at a greater capacity. It doesn't matter what you do, if you're a professional athlete, if you're somebody that is an entrepreneur, a creative. In almost every case, people become better at what they do. They become a better version of themselves.
So, question. This might not be a fair question, but you might know.
Sure.
Why have we, because I was the girl who, if you had talked to me about maybe even about 2 years ago,
Sure.
where you say shrooms or mushrooms, I would be like, oh, I'm thinking, for me, it's right up there with cocaine.
Yeah.
Right? That's how was that a normal thing where most people had that sort of belief?
Man, the amount of misinformation out there, the world is tough to navigate as it is, but we've got a media that spins things on their heads, as we now know, just based on, I'm not going to take a position on COVID, but we were misled in so many different ways. And really, Richard Nixon in the 1970s put up the red flag and said, we're going to do this war on drugs, and we're going to stop any psychedelics because of this, and this. And I'll tell you this, if you ever come across a scientist that was active in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there's one thing that they said. This was the biggest scientific mistake in the history of the world, to shut down the research that happened with psychedelics. There was 3,000 clinical studies that had already taken place to prove how safe this was. They were helping people with addiction, smoking, depression, anxiety, all of these things that plague us today. And there was a huge head start around this, and it was stopped until about
the opinion that it was intentional.
Yes.
This does not, for viewers and listeners, this does not represent the views of Keegan Downer, but what I'm saying is definitely my view.
Of course.
Because anything that has ever been transformational for humankind it's always created taboo, and access has always been limited or almost completely denied. Because it's my understanding in my recent research that many actors, singers, musicians, a lot of the high functioning people on this planet are microdosing, have been microdosing, and it's part of their health routine that they can't talk about, but they have specialists at their side who ensure that they're optimized with the microdosing of mushrooms and other types of psychedelics. It is my understanding that a part of some people's spiritual practice, not religious, and their recovery while they were addicted to alcohol, addicted to cocaine. Many celebrities have gone on journeys. Many politicians, their children, I went into the research, have gone into the spiritual meditation that includes psychedelics like mushrooms. And so it was on me. Why am I here living, creating this path and having these negative thoughts about what is available to me to help and support me being? Because I had to take the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice because of the corporate work I did in 2020. If I served in government entities and I had contracts and things with government, they won't let me I couldn't continue my work without COVID vaccines. And I'm telling you, my body had adverse effects and still do. And I've been researching how to undo some of those effects from the COVID-19 vaccine. Let you comment.
Yeah. Oh man, this is just so juicy. I think this is where I want to go next is, let me explain to you how this works in the brain, because it is so different than I think what people are going to expect to hear. Back to the science, back to the clinical studies. By the way, 235 clinical studies that have now been done on psilocybin mushrooms. So, I mean, almost every major university in the world that is really relevant and active in this space is at some capacity studying this. But, in 2018, the same college, the Imperial College of London, they really wanted to figure out, so they were way ahead of their time. Again, this is, 7 years ago. They wanted to figure out what the heck was actually going on in the human brain when you took psilocybin mushrooms. And here's what they found. They had this hypothesis that there must be some type of explosion going on. There must be some type of fireworks that are happening that we're going to discover. But here's what they found. And something you said just now made me think of this. So it kind of, hopefully we can segue it and make them all attached. So there's this little portion in the back right portion of your brain. It's called the default mode network. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
And so in your default mode network is really a place where we can get stuck. So if you ever hear somebody referring to like a negative feedback loop, and we're just in this loop, it's like a hamster wheel, I can't get out of it, it's because you're trapped in this portion of the brain. But generally speaking, people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, eating disorder,
heavy doses of trauma. Yeah.
We get trapped in this portion of the brain. And what ends up happening, a good example of this would be when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning and I'm having my conversation to myself in the morning about, how I look, how I feel, how other people are going to think about me. It's really your ego that runs your entire program. And
on autopilot too.
100%, right? And that sometimes when you're somebody that's struggling, or you're in that category of being an underdog of any kind, which to be honest with you makes up almost all of us, you have an overactive default mode network, and you're kind of caught in this portion of your brain. Now here's what they found. When you take psilocybin mushrooms, the cerebral blood flow to this portion of the brain is shortcut. So it doesn't actually explode. The blood stops flowing to this portion of the brain. And when you can escape this part of your brain, all of a sudden, you can change your behavior. You can change your mood. You can change the way that you respond to things like food and cigarettes and sugar. And honestly, you get this opportunity to think differently. You're starting this new connection of brain activity to different places in the brain that normally don't connect with one another. So it is neuroplastic. You have the ability to rewire the entire brain. So that is the second piece that I think we need to chat about, because, I mean, just even that piece alone,
right,
very
transformational. Yeah. Now, would that be why some people are having similar effects as you described when they use alcohol, when they use THC or marijuana, or even I'm thinking of, let's go with those two. Are they having sort of the similar effects, but for short amounts of time, so they have to keep taking more of it to have that? Or is there any similarity in how you're affected there for a moment, or how does that work?
I don't really have the scientific answer to that.
Okay.
My hypothesis would be, back to the Gabor Mate comment, right? Like, it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain. We just get addicted to try to put a lid on top of the pain.
A lid, yeah.
And let's just stuff it down. Let's not address it. But here's what we now know. what ends up happening, right? Emotional trauma that is stored in the body ends up showing up in your life in mysterious ways. I'm sure you've seen it over the years with your patients.
Yes.
But I'll share this. A lot of people, when they get to this place with that overactivity in the default mode network, they'll go to their family doctor and they'll say, "Hey, I need to stop this way of thinking. I'm depressed. I have anxiety. Can you give me something?" Right?
Right.
And this is where it gets complicated. And this is what I believe it's illegal today, because you are not a customer the way that you are when you get onto these SSRI and anxiety medications. I want to start by saying this. For many people, these have been helpful. I do know that. So I'm not here to talk shit about anybody that has been exploring this, because to be honest with you, they don't. I mean, doctors don't have any other options. Psychiatrists don't have any other option. They don't. They have these 52 to 60 anti-anxiety medications. But here's what they do. Okay, they essentially numb out that portion of the brain.
Yes.
Like I said, they kind of they put a lid on it. They stuff it down, and guess what? For a very temporary amount of time, that might be helpful for you. But here's what I've seen in my career, 5 years doing this work now, is I talk to people every single day that got put on one of these SSRIs or anti-anxiety meds when they were 17 years old in high school.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, it's such an important conversation. I'm getting the feeling we're going to have to do a second part. But if you're open to it, I've got 2 more things that I want to share with your audience.
I want us to get there. Yes. It's not done until you're done.
And it's just literally, it's just microdosing 101. And by the way, I haven't even said what microdosing is.
That's one of my questions, so go for it.
Okay, awesome. So microdosing is taking ultra small amounts of psilocybin mushrooms at a non-perceptual changing and non-intoxicating level. So 90% of microdosing is taking such a small amount that you wouldn't even know it was in your system. And of course, we make microdosing, we have a lot of different doses. So there are exceptions to that rule. But generally speaking, you don't want to get on a call like this and be buzzed, right? So you want to get on a call like this where your brain just seems to be working and firing at a greater capacity. You feel more comfortable in your own skin. Your anxiety seems to be put at bay. Really what microdosing is, it's not about feeling high. It's much more about going into triggering situations and feeling less triggered. It is about that, think about what that might be for you. I'll share this. Every single one of us gets triggered by something. The one thing that I have found in my life that's ultra triggering is getting cut off on the road. And we know now that you can't drive anywhere in a busy town for half an hour and not at least experience that once, right? It just happens. It's a way of life. But here's what ends up happening. So this is a great example for me. I used to be the guy that would throw up the double fingers. I wouldn't chase people, but I would swear and I would be grumpy. And now, here's how I know that microdosing works. Now I'll drive past the person and I'll blow a little kiss. Just like that.
I just spoke about that on the podcast that I've done that before.
Oh my God, it's the best. It is way more insulting.
I haven't started microdosing yet.
I'll share one more example, right? Like, we also all have either a colleague or a family member that it triggers us at the family event or at the employee lunch or barbecue. You've got that one person that you kind of just go, like, God, I just don't want to be around this person. They drive me nuts. They trigger me. All of a sudden, you're around that person, and whatever that person has done in the past, it just kind of flows off of you. You don't allow it to absorb and get in your pores and start to irritate you. Or you go to the grocery store. Maybe tonight, Alisa, your partner asks you to stop at the grocery store, and you've been doing podcasting all day. You've been working your tail off, and it was supposed to be him to get dinner prepared, and he switched roles and said, "No, I'm busy now. Can you do this for me?" We can all relate to this. This happens to all of us, right?
It's so aggravating.
Right. And you drive to the store and you can't find a parking spot. You park in the back. It's 4:00. There's people everywhere. It was tough just getting to the grocery store. You're kind of pouting a little bit. You go in the store. you see there's a big line, and all of a sudden you go from being pissed off to just saying to the person behind you, you say, hey, how's your day going? That person just says something to you that just makes your day. You create micro moments that I'm telling you improve your life. And when you stack them together over 1 month, over 2 months, over 3 months, over 6 months, over a year, you can completely shift who you are. I'm telling you. That's what
I agree. And I was having a conversation with someone very close to me just a couple hours before we got on here. And like the thing with the kiss, and I was saying to her, I was like, you're having this battle with this other person in your life that you're still, believe it or not, even though they're doing something that's triggering you over and over and over again, and you're asking them for stop, and you're telling me and you're telling them that they won't know to stop, even though they promised to stop. What's the story here? You're still trying to get someone to do something that's against their will. A man against his will is of the same mindset still. However, if you decide to make a change in your life and give yourself the power to more or less control the outcome for you in the dynamic, what would that look like was my question. Now, I use the example of how I remember when people would say triggering things to me, and I knew that I didn't want to go in a back and forth and start a tribal war or have a generational disconnect because it's a family member and now we don't talk. And the rest of that side of the family don't want to talk to me because I said what I needed to say, how I feel, so I can release it and don't put my boundaries up and all of that. Of course, that's fun stuff that's following around the internet. But the truth is, a lot of people telling it like it is and setting boundaries in an, how should I say, in a harsh manner continues to have an effect on us. So I don't want that result. And it dawned on me that one thing I had to do to take control is take control of me. So I said, first thing, it was me saying something like, stop, that's not in alignment with me. It doesn't work for me. I'll see you later. Leave the situation. Now, I am consciously made an agreement to respond that way. But I walk away and I'm still, now I've calmed the storm with the person and there's no generational gap because we don't talk and now their mother and their grandmother don't talk to my side of the family. But inside, I have cussed them out in 7 different languages. I want to strangle them. I'm still angry. So now all night I'm stewing on it. I can't sleep. I come home. I want to take a glass of wine. I want to go punch a punching bag. And tomorrow I wake up, I feel bad because I'm still upset. Maybe I should have said something. All this is going on and taking up a whole bunch of time and energy in my world. But I realized that if I keep doing it, now I know my next job is to take control of how I feel. Now, for some things, it works, and for some things, it doesn't. What I'm hearing you say is tackling that part in your brain that's on that loop enables you with this mindfulness of thinking. That was a mindful thought that don't lash out and get into a Keegan and go in a back and forth. It's easy to soft answer, turn away wrath.
Yeah.
Walking away from a situation saves a lifetime of problems, right? But some people will try it, and then one day Keegan just pushes, and they explode anyway, and never know, they might end up stabbing them. This is where you're saying when you do this kind of microdosing, you're saying it brings the option, so your mindful thoughts and your deliberate action of making a change in how you respond to life's crazy it's easier for you to work and be that better, higher version of yourself, which is what science has been saying all along.
Such a good example. I love how you're weaving in just real world situations. Because yes, back to remember when I was talking about writing that 3-page letter? What that was to me was I was learning how to problem solve differently. And we've all got that character in our lives that is the narcissist, that is so difficult to bring your feelings and your emotions to, that doesn't understand you, that you just don't relate to. People still like them. People don't see that side of them, but you see that side of them.
Yes, you're close to the fire.
Totally. But guess what? This is something that can help you pause before you react, okay? Take that extra 5 seconds just to make a bit of a better game plan than exploding, right?
Right.
We all have those moments that it is testing for us. But what if we could just put that pause on Whether it's the 5 seconds before you text the drug dealer, whether it's that 5 seconds before you text your wife or your colleague and drop a nasty voice note, and then you spend the rest of your evening wishing that you
Said it.
right, that you said it differently or you approached it differently.
Mm.
It's all you need is that extra 5 seconds just to kind of rethink your actions, rethink double fingering the guy that cut you off, or rethink swearing at your husband for not, going to the grocery store and doing their job. I truly think that microdosing makes happier, it makes people happier. It makes them better at the jobs that you do. It gives you more time to respond in a healthier manner and get a way better result. It reduces anxiety. It's incredible for depression. It's incredible for brain fog. And I know we've just crossed over the hour, and I will, if you're open to it, come back and share more if this is
We
well
can,
received.
yeah. If we're into another episode, we're fine because sometimes we end up recording a 2-part episode of 45 minutes, so we're fine.
I have never done this before, but I want to try something. I want to create a code called Disruptor. So right after this, I'm going to create a code for your entire community, and I'm going to allow your community to try our products, which, by the way, are the safest, are the most consistent, and are the highest vibrational frequency mushroom products that you can find anywhere in the world today. I will debate this till, we do things
So
so
the cows come home. Yeah, and we're going to talk our next episode, because we're going to do another episode. It's going to be a mini series with you. What I would love for you to walk us through is what a sample of what a microdosing would look like for someone. And maybe you can share after that what's one powerful message you've received from someone who tried the mindful meds and they found hope.
I mean, honestly, I'll just read a text that came through to me this morning from a really great friend of mine. But I'll share this, okay? If we had 20 people on this conversation today, maybe we invited 20 people from your community, 17 of those 20 people are going to have different, what I call sweet spots when it comes to the dose of psilocybin that is effective for them. This is not one size fits all. It takes a little bit of exploring. It takes a little bit of, our average customer orders 3 different bottles every single time they place an order. And the reason being is this: depending on the mood that you're in that day, might call for a different dose, and the activities that you have planned might call for a different dose. So, for this, like I said, I don't want anything in my system that I'm going to feel. I don't want to be high. But if I was to, for instance, be on the golf course, I'm playing golf in an hour with some buddies of mine. You're out in nature. You're around your friends. I don't drink alcohol. There can be a real playful dose that you take with psilocybin that calls for just a little bit of an amp in the dose. So like I said, depending on the mood that you're in and the activities that you have is going to dictate the dose that you take. Generally speaking, it is somewhere between 50 milligrams and 150 milligrams.
Okay.
So to give you an idea, 50 milligrams is 1/20th of a gram, right? A gram is generally the dose that you would take to have some sort of psychedelic effect, where the music and the colors would be kind of dancing. So we're talking generally about 1/20th of that dose. So completely perceptual. And really what I'd love to do is I want to create a code called Disruptor. And we just opened up our website for international shipping.
Wow.
You go. So this is the very first
Congratulations on that too.
Thank you. With anybody in the US that we can ship to. And now you can go on, you can put the code in, Disruptor, and I'm going to keep, when do you think this might launch? Do you have an idea?
I think in a week. We're probably going to have this up in a week or two, no less than 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to keep the code active. Maybe we can put it in the notes. We can put the website.
It definitely would be in the notes as well. Yeah.
And I want to do this too, Alisa, is I want to ship you some products. And I want to get you and your partner microdosing products. And then what I want to do is this: come back and have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Just check in with you and see how you feel. I am going to share this. If you are on an SSRI or anti-anxiety medication, in almost every case, there are a couple caveats, okay? But this is very safe for the most part to combine. The one challenge, though, is that there is a very high likelihood that you are going to need a much, much stronger dose because the SSRI and the psilocybin are trying to connect to that same serotonin receptor. And what ends up happening is it's called a blunting effect. It essentially waters down the psilocybin, the beautiful magic medicinal.
So would it be something where you could not take the SSRI and introduce microdosing and see what happens? Because like for someone like me, I don't need the SSRI. I just don't want to be lightheaded and dizzy. And it's a small dose. It doesn't even really help me for anything else.
Totally. So
at least after all these years, the doctor says it's not even effective.
No, but the challenge is like I said, they weren't designed for you to come off, right? And this is the trap that you and so many people that I've come across, this is what they tell me is like, every time I come off, all of these things happen within my system, and it's better for me to get back on so I can actually function and live my life.
Exactly.
So if this resonates with you and you fall into that, that kind of bucket where you are on an SSRI, but you're hungry to get off, the very first step would be to go to your doctor.
Yes.
And say, hey, I know enough's enough. I'm really wanting to get off of this. And just know.
Because a lot of people who are really on the medication, not like for me, I'm not even getting a dose that from the beginning is really, really impactful in your life like that. But some people are on that dose and your life, because I've seen them, even for people who are on ADHD medicine, young kids who I feel bad for them. I've seen students go on these medicines and they become like this.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
It's like, now they're not even alive anymore.
Right.
You're suffering.
For anybody that isn't watching the video, Dr. Whyte just literally just kind of nodded off in her chair to show kind of show what happens to people. It can completely and utterly nuke your system.
Yes.
And so here's what I want to share about this. If you are somebody that is hungry, wants to try an alternative, don't rush. Okay, there is no rush. Every single one of you is going to have your own journey when it comes to tapering off your SSRI.
Yes.
So this is not one size fits all. There is no rush to this. I can tell you the mushrooms are always going to be here. Okay.
Right.
So your path to when you get to them is not a race. This is not a race.
Right.
I just want people to be able to safely come off, and it starts by tapering. Generally speaking, it starts by tapering. There are people that can magically just get off of these, and honestly, that's an incredible thing. But there's also people like you, Dr. Whyte, that try to get off, and all of a sudden, all these funky things. They can't walk anymore. They can't. Their depression comes through back times 10. And if that's you, just have some grace with yourself and just know that this is too. I will say that combining the microdoses with the psilocybin will help with the withdrawal symptoms. Very helpful with the withdrawal symptoms.
Okay, that's good.
And really, for the most part, incredibly safe to combine with one another.
Let me ask you this. For the person who has been prescribed SSRIs and refuse to because they're concerned about the side effects, can you speak to them about how mindful meds might be something they want to at least try, especially since you're giving them a disruptor code?
Yeah.
Talk to that person who, because I met a lot of people in my journey who would not take SSRIs because they know the side effects and they don't want them, but they're still struggling with managing life because they have these challenges. Talk to them.
I'm going to share this piece with you. I think it would be an amazing way to maybe just wrap it up here at the finish line. Here's what I want to say. Microdosing is an incredible tool. It's simply just another tool in your toolkit that when you combine it, okay, so when you do the other work that it takes to become the best version of yourself, whether that be going for a walk in the morning, sounds so simple, right? Going and putting your feet in the grass in the morning and getting yourself grounded, choosing to eat a little bit healthy or choosing to meal prep on a Sunday. Here's the big one. If you are going to therapy today, I am telling you right now, the people that are the therapists that I know that are working with their clients with microdosing, in addition to the therapy. So this isn't just take a pill and my life is going to change. I'll tell you right now, if you order from us and that's who you are, you're the person that wants the shortcut and you want to take the pill and all of a sudden you're expecting things to change, this isn't for you. But if you are the person that is into self-development, okay,
putting in the work,
you are somebody that is hungry to become a better version of yourself. And I believe that every single person in your community that's listened this far, you are that person. You are the perfect avatar for a microdoser. You are the ideal candidate for microdosing.
Yeah.
And when you combine this medicine with therapy, we're talking about the greatest breakthrough of mental health.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I love it. Oh my, and you guys know you're going to have, like we said, there's more of Keegan coming back, but flip the script with everything that you have gone through. I want to ask you one question first. What is most important message you have for the world when it comes to the mindfulness meds and how it transformed your life and how it could potentially transform theirs?
Such a good question. And I don't want to reiterate what I just said, but I am telling you right now, if you are in a place where you are trying to become the next best version of yourself, you're doing the work, you're working on your trauma, you're trying to heal, you're working on becoming a better dad, a better mom, a better colleague, a better friend. You are hungry to unlock your potential as a human being. This is a tool that is going to help you get there. Okay.
Right. I love that.
It doesn't replace the therapy. It doesn't replace the rehab. You still have to go and do those things. But this is a tool that my boy, like I am telling you, when you combine these tools with that other work, you can completely and utterly transform your life. And to be honest, the reason I'm creating this code, this is the biggest discount that our products ever get. We only do it 4 times a year. I've never, ever once done this before for any podcast I've ever been on. I'm going to create a code right after this called Disruptor, and I'm going to give your entire community 30% off all of their microdoses indefinitely. I'm going to add one more thing to this. If anybody is listening to this and goes to our website, mindfulmeds. I am available to do 15-minute. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 15-minute one-on-one free consultations. Myself and my colleague, who is as experienced, if not more experienced in this industry than me, and we can safely listen to everything that you're going through. Dr. Whyte, we're going to do it together before I send your package out to you.
Yes, of course.
I'm going to voice note you over tomorrow. I'll get your personal cell phone number right after this if you're okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I just want to say, everything that we talked about is available for free on our website. All you have to do is put in your information, and we'll send you our microdosing guide. All the studies that we've talked about are in this guide. It's a 62-page resource. I believe it's the most comprehensive microdosing guide that can be found anywhere in the world. My team put 500 hours into creating this document. This is well before
ChatGPT, right?
You know, this is well before that. And so it's available for free. And I'll say this, I have never in 5 years of serving this medicine have not had somebody have total success with microdosing when they've read this document from start to finish. The more educated that you get, the hungrier you are to learn about this, the better success rate you're going to have. I want to thank you for this conversation. Thank you so much for having me. As you can see, I get quite excited.
Yes, you're so passionate about it.
It's just, it really just means everything to me to go from really not feeling like I had any value in the world to give people. And then all of a sudden I get to get on conversations like this and see if I can help someone. It just means everything to me. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to ask because everyone wants to know, what is the definition of success for you since your recovery began?
Yeah, it's so simple. All I want to do, success to me is waking up with a smile on my face. Simple.
Very simple.
As simple as it sounds. I worked with a life coach for 1.5 years, and every single time we go on a Zoom call like this, the title of the container was More Fun, More Joy. I don't care about money. All I want to do is have amazing experiences and be happy. That's what success is. It's greatly shifted to what it used to be in 2019. It's just happiness. And I really believe this is a tool that can help you reach that.
I can see it. Oh, I love it. Kiva, thank you for being so transparent, so real. Your story is a reminder that recovery is absolutely possible, that healing is also multi layered, that sometimes the right tools paired with the right mindset can change everything. Listen, disruptors, you're listening. Make sure to visit mindfulmeds.io. Follow at mindfulmeds_CA on Instagram. It'll also be in the description. And check out the exclusive discount code that's in the description wherever you're listening and watching this. That code is called Disruptor if you're hearing it, but you want to make sure you're on the right. The website is mindfulmeds.io. Listen, and as always, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become, and you will have more of Mr. Keegan back on Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm Dr. Alisa with my co-host Keegan saying we'll see you later.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.